Gillian's still having a lunch.
I am. I've
Hi,
just got in
Gillian.
from a run, thank you. Hi.
Have I interrupted your lunch?
Yeah, I'm a bit behind. I just ran in and grabbed a bit of peanut butter on bread. The rubbish lunch.
Oh, it sounds good. Just had some yogurt and fruit because I had late porridge after my run. Oh, it's a nice group. We got Yvonne, we got Missy, we got Diane, we've got Tom, we got Amra, Keith, and Dave is joining. How is everybody? Good afternoon.
Yeah, good.
It's good. We've got a mixture of our Breathe Balance movers on a Tuesday and Thursday morning. We've got some very good OA Oxygen Advantage instructors joining as well. So this is great to see you. Thanks for joining in. We've got Yvonne there, Missy and Dave. Please feel free to pop your cameras on because we've got a small group, so we'll be chatting as well as we work through the session. So do feel free to pop your cameras on and jump in with any comments as we work through. I'll just give it another couple of minutes, just let a few more in. Christine's joining. There's Christine. Hi, Christine.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Nice and comfy and warm again by the looks of it.
Oh, yes.
Excellent. Okay. Okay, let's crack on, and then I'll just let people in if they jump in. So firstly, I'm recording this, so we will play. If you want to watch the playback, that's fine. So a few people who've signed up for it as well, who don't perhaps jump in on the live, I will share it with them as well for everyone who has signed up. As I said there, we've got a mixture here of our Breathe Balance movers. So this is the class that we do on a Tuesday and Thursday morning, breath work and Qigong, but also we've got some OA coaches who maybe have trained with me or been doing some mentoring. So it's going to be a mixture of things that we'll practice today. For the Breathe Balance Move guys, we don't really look at breath holds or any breath retention when we're doing our Tuesday and Thursday classes. And I deliberately don't emphasize that a lot because with those classes, you know, we go live on Facebook and YouTube. So it's fine for the people in the Zoom group because I can watch you and I can make sure that nobody falls over or passes out or anything like that. But obviously, because it's live on Facebook and YouTube and anybody can be watching, I'm just very careful in what I'm guiding and what I'm teaching. So what is great about the class today is that we can explore a little bit more of that. We can practice a little bit more of that. So I'd like to start off with, we're going to spend a little bit of time sitting. We will spend a little bit of time moving. I'm going to start off with just a breath awareness practice, but if anybody's got any questions before we kick off or anything in particular they want to look at this session, because again, it's open to what you want to get out of it, please do feel free just to jump in now. Good, I like that. I like it when everybody's quiet. But as we go through the practice, I will stop and I'll invite questions as well if anybody's got any questions or comments. So starting off, sitting. So we'll start off sitting. So you can sit, chair, floor, whatever's comfortable for you. We're going to spend about 5-10 minutes doing this practice. So where you are comfortable. Ideally keeping the camera on. If you don't like to have the camera on, please feel free just to turn the camera off. But I'm going to be guiding you just with my voice, so you don't have to watch any visual. I'm not going to be guiding you with anything visually, so you can just move away from the camera. Or if it feels more comfortable as we go through the practice, if you just want to close your eyes, that's absolutely fine. And this is all about doing nothing. And we're good as human beings. We're always wanting to be doing things, but actually a human being wants to just be. So what we're going to do is just allow ourselves to be, just do nothing, and just see how the body responds to that. So a little bit of movement, get yourself nice and balanced. Have your feet in contact with the ground. So as long as you feel stable on the ground, with your feet, and whatever surface you're sitting in, sitting on, or sitting in, you feel comfortable and supported by the surface that you are sitting on. And just bringing your awareness right at the base of the spine, on the sitting bones and the base of the spine. And just gradually working your way up that spinal column, just lengthening up the spine. And just visualizing each of the vertebrae. So you've got these individual vertebrae, these bones that create that spinal column, just lengthening up. Having a nice, strong spine, strong back. And then as you come up to the base of the neck, just lengthen the neck too. What is often quite nice is just a very gentle nod. It's a nice way just to visualize balancing your head on top of the spine. This takes away the tension, any tightness and tension in the shoulders. If you can get your head just balanced on top of the spine. And then just bringing your awareness to the crown of the head. So just when you're a little baby, that little soft spot just towards the back of the skull. And have a sense of pointing that towards the sky or pointing that up towards the ceiling. So the crown of the head connected above you. And then the whole of the scalp and the forehead, just see if you can soften the scalp, soften the forehead and the eyebrows. This is a place where we might find we feel quite a lot of tension in the brow. And then softening the eye sockets. Again, this is often where we feel a lot of tension in the eyes, in the eye sockets. So feel free to close your eyes if that feels more comfortable for you. And then soften and relax the cheekbones. And the jaw. And with the tip of the tongue just resting lightly on the roof of the mouth, just behind the ridge, behind the top teeth. So the lips are lightly touching. Really relaxing the jaw, softening the jaw, relaxing the back of the throat. And just very silently and calmly take a slightly fuller breath in through the nose. And as that breath, just as you let that breath go, just soften and relax the shoulders and the chest. Maybe just one more, just very calm, soft, quiet, slightly fuller breath in through the nose. Slow, and then when you let go, soften the chest, maybe soften into the belly, maybe soften into the front of the hips. And then just breathing easy. Have that sense of a strong back, a strong spine, but a soft front of the body. Balance between strength and softness. Where we need tension and where we can let go of any tightness and tension that we don't need. Your awareness now to the nose, the nasal cavity, and just notice the air. How does that feel as the air just flows in and out through the nose, the nostrils? All of that space in the nasal cavity, in the back of the throat. And this is just noticing. We're not changing anything. We're not trying to do anything, just allowing the body just to breathe, just how it needs to breathe. And it's perfectly normal when we just take a moment like this for your mind to wander off. You never see it going, you just notice it's wandered off. And if and when that's the case, use that as an opportunity. And it's an opportunity to notice maybe a thought or a feeling, and then just park that thought or feeling, and then just gently guide your attention back to the breath and that physical sensation. very clear physical sensation of the air, the energy entering your body. Perhaps you can even notice the temperature. Can you notice maybe a change in temperature, a very subtle change? So as you breathe in, that air slightly cooler than when you breathe out. See if you can really tune into the slightly cooler air as you breathe in, slightly warmer and that relaxation and that softness of the chest, the belly. As you breathe out. Just allowing the body just to breathe, just the right volume of air that it needs, that you need for what you're doing at this moment in time. And then I'd like you just to very gently guide your attention to your feet, to that connection with the ground. Maybe just give your toes a little bit of a wiggle. And then awareness to the arms and the fingers. Maybe moving the fingers a little bit. And then taking that a slightly fuller again, calm, silent, fuller breath.
Top of that.
At the top of that breath, just opening your eyes if you have your eyes closed. Maybe having a little stretch, a little twist is always quite nice as well. Good. Julian's got cold doing that. You put your hoodie back on. Excellent. So I just wanted that little practice just to start off with, just to allow our body to breathe the right volume of air that we need, or it needs to breathe for what you're doing at that moment of time. Has anybody got any comments, anything they want to share on that little practice, any feedback or any questions about that? Feel free just to unmute yourself and just shout up. No?
I really like, I was just going to say, Gray, I really like that. I've really been trying to focus on that sense of strength in the back and softness, more soft at the front, because I think quite often I don't know, it's trying to sort of really soften around the areas that for the breath to move and but yet still have that sense of stability and strength in the. I think that was really nice. Yeah,
I think when we do a practice like this, thanks, Gillian. When we do a practice like this, we also get strength training as well, because it's how often do we sit in this type of position? And what we don't want to do is just be rigid and like, oh, I can't move, because then if we're just rigid and pulling everything into the front, then how's that going to affect your breath? And I like that idea. Again, it's that whole Qigong idea or whole life idea of balance, about having an element of strength. Where do you need to be strong? Where do you need tension in a good way? But where can you soften and relax? So that's very typical of sort of like that practice of tall through the spine, lengthen the spine, but actually then relax or soften, maybe is a better word, the front of the body, and how you can really feel it deep into the hips as well. If you can let the ribs relax, soften the rib cage a little bit and soften into the belly and soften into the ribs. So then you're creating the space or a good optimal posture. Not always keen on the word posture, but you're creating that structure for the breath to be as easy as possible. And again, if you start to feel uncomfortable, what's that going to do? And it's going to affect how you breathe. Like, oh, I feel a bit awkward, I feel a bit achy in my back. Your breath is going to change. So with this practice, it's not spending too long that it becomes stressful just sitting, but the longer you practice, not only are you tuning into the breath, you're also tuning into your body and you're strengthening your spine. I think like BBMers will know a lot about our spine health. I'm really focusing on this at the minute because if the spine goes, everything else goes. You've got your central nervous system, peripheral nervous system coming from the spine. Good. Thanks for that, Gillian. Anybody else got anything they want to share? Keith, are you jumping in there? Yeah, Keith.
Yeah, I've been on Zoom quite a bit this morning, and just before we started, I was trying to load the dishwasher and clear away and blah blah blah. And so when I sat down, I was very aware of far too much energy in the body, far more than was actually needed to do the tasks that I was doing. And I think it's indicative a lot of the times in the day that there's way too much energy and thought processes goes into what we do than what we need. So it was a welcome opportunity to just allow it to settle, but it took some time.
Yeah, and what is quite nice about that as well, is like that idea of like there's a bit too much energy. It's like, oh, I'm a bit like. So what is quite nice to do maybe before the practice, and you say it took a little bit of a while, sometimes just those couple of fuller breaths is a good way. Think of like when we practice in the Qigong stuff, like the cleansing and clearing, or the bit of the shaking. So again, that'll get rid of a little bit of energy, and then coming down into calm. So it's I suppose it's having those little things you can tune into to actually get rid of energy if you've got a little bit too much energy. So you can have obviously positive energy and negative energy. If you're stressed out, one of the best things to do is just shake it out. So but as you say, it's quite nice then just to settle into that. So I'm glad that worked for you this afternoon. Thanks, Keith. Anybody else? Any of our OA instructors here want to chip in there? No? Right, the next little practice I'd like to do is very similar, but what is great about the breath is we don't have to think about it. So although we're tuning into the breath there, I'm not asking you to guide the breath in any particular way. And maybe things happen. Maybe it does slow down a little bit. Maybe you start to notice things a little bit more. But the fact that we breathe about 22,000 times a day and we don't have to think about it is brilliant, because if we did, we'd be on the floor if we had to think about every single breath we take. But again, one of the benefits of being a mammal who can think, we can actually take conscious control of the breath. And we all know here that certain ways of breathing can have an effect on our biochemistry, can have effect on our hormones. So that little practice was just like, what does your body need now? What does your body need to do now? How does your body need to breathe? But what we're going to do now is we're just going to add a little bit of conscious control to the breath. So I'll guide you through it. We start off again in exactly the same position. So sitting. Nice and tall. Think of that strong spine. We want to avoid anything that is rigid. So if you need to move a little bit, then feel free to move. So lengthening the spine, just creating space in the spine. Lengthening the back of the neck. Getting that head balanced on top of the spine so we can let go of any tightness, tension in the shoulders. Shoulders don't need to hold the head up because it's balanced nicely on the top of the spine. And then softening the face, the forehead, the eye sockets, jaw, cheekbones. Often just focusing on the face can send that relaxation through the rest of the body as well, or the rest of the front of the body. There was a study done on runners and they showed that when they were smiling, they could increase their running performance by about 2%. Now, it might not sound a lot, but actually, if you're looking at margins of improvement, it is quite a bit. And it was shown that just smiling had a similar effect to strength training, plyometrics. When you smile or when your face is relaxed, you are sending the signal of safety to your mind to say, yes, everything is fine. So relaxing the face, relaxing the jaw. Taking that slightly fuller breath. It's a nice way just to soften the front of the body. If you just take that slightly fuller breath in, filling the ribs, filling the chest a little bit, and then just letting go, and then softening the ribs, softening the belly, softening into the hips. Tuning into the air as it flows softly and effortlessly in and out through the nose. And you notice the temperature change, that slightly cooler air as you breathe in. Slightly warmer Watch you breathe out, just very subtle. And remembering when the mind wanders off, use that as an opportunity just to very gently guide your attention back to your particular focus, the air as it flows, softly in and out through the nose. I'd like you now to notice the top of the breath. So what happens at the top of the breath? Notice that space, or that lull at the top of the breath. Without changing anything, just notice how the inhale changes into an exhale. How does that feel at the top of the breath? Smooth change from inhale to exhale. Let's explore the bottom of the breath. So just noticing that space, the bottom of the breath, change from the exhale to the inhale. What does that feel? And staying with that space at the bottom of the breath, what I'd like you to do is when you get to the bottom of the breath, here we're just going to play around with a little bit of conscious control. So I'm just going to want you to extend that space, that pause at the bottom of the breath, maybe just for about 5 seconds. So just once, just in your own time, after that normal breath in and normal breath out, when you get to the space at the bottom of breath, you can count silently 5 seconds and then just let the breath be natural after that. Just go back to that normal, easy breathing. So when you're ready, just explore that space at the bottom of the breath. Just for a few seconds. It doesn't have to be long. It should feel comfortable, it should feel relaxing. Then let's go again. So when you're ready, in your own time, just after that, normal breath in, normal breath out. Just extend that pause at the bottom of the breath, about 5 seconds. Allow that next breath to flow in, breathing easy after that. We'll do that once more after a normal breath in, normal breath out. Just extending the space, the pause at the bottom of the breath. Again, just for about 5 seconds. And then just breathing easy. And when you are ready, just taking a slightly fuller breath in. Nice and calm, opening your eyes at the top of that breath. Having a little stretch again. Every time I rotate my back, always clicks. It's always nice. Good. So very subtle there, just a gentle pause at the bottom of the breath, just for a few seconds. Again, anybody want to just chip in? Any thoughts, any comments, any questions on that? Any questions on why we're doing that at all? Christine?
Yeah, I actually fell asleep in the first bit, which I know is not designed to do that, but I think I'm tired. Before we started doing the breath holds, I wouldn't fall asleep on that, but I kind of did that thing that you do, you know, when you kind of nod your head. Well, I thought it was quite interesting. I'd obviously just relaxed to the point where I was ready to have a nap. Yeah, so that was good.
Well, it is sort of like that time. I think we're all in the UK. Is everybody in the UK? We've got anybody in the States? No, we've got some people in the States as well. So in the UK, it's just after lunch. So we're all feeling a little bit tired if you just had your lunch. But it's interesting you say it's not designed to do that. Actually, it is designed to down-regulate because we're having that little squeeze at the bottom the breath as well. So that helps to calm and relax the body. Good. Thomas has a question. Thanks, Christine.
Following on from Christine, Karen actually mentioned yesterday from her reflexology that a colleague, I think it was a reflexologist in Australia who writes lots of stuff, had written that when people are having a reflexology treatment, they don't fall asleep, they go into a meditative state. Karen actually thinks they fall asleep because it sounds different, but just thinking of Christine,
sleep is a meditative state.
Did you sleep or did you go into a meditative state which is similar to sleep? So that's, who knows.
I remember having one of the best acupuncture sessions I had. Literally was like, I thought it was like 10 minutes and I'd been there an hour, and it was like, it didn't feel like a sleep. You know, if you fall asleep for an hour after lunch or during the day, you wake up feeling really groggy, but it was that type of feeling. I'd just been like in that meditative state, I think, and it seemed like 5 minutes. I thought, oh, I've done about 10 minutes here, I want my money's worth, and I looked at the clock and it was an hour had gone, so I couldn't complain and get my money back from that. But yeah, it's the difference, isn't it, between sort of like that relaxed alertness, and this is what is interesting about a lot of the practices that we do, is some of them can so subtly change how you feel. So there's different practices like the box breathing, like the resonance breathing, where you can subtly change the intention of the practice. But the idea of that is just to get you to notice that little bit of a pause at the bottom of the breath, because it's helping just to rebalance a little bit the biochemistry of the body. We're just getting that very subtle bump of CO2. So it's like very little squeeze of energy when we actually add that 5-second little pause at the bottom of the breath.
I've got question, Gray. Yeah. So that because I was gonna ask you, a number of times I've almost like probably asked you to remind me what the function of that is. But so it makes sense that if you're just very relaxed and you're sitting like we've been really relaxed, really sort of and just breathing gently and enough for what we need, and that little pause at the end. But if we were active, if we were walking, say, or even just slowly running and doing slight breath holds at the end of an out breath, would that be a completely different function, or would it not?
It wouldn't. Well, it would in the fact that you're moving, but in terms of the sort of like the psychological aspect to it, the idea of this is to help you feel calm and focused. So every time we even just pause the breath for a moment, if you think logically why we hold the breath or why we pause the breath, it's actually, I need to focus. So you quite often think, oh yeah, if I pause the breath, it's bad because I'm holding the breath a lot of the time. It most probably is if you're doing it too often, and then our breathing becomes irregular. But just for that moment in time when you have that little pause, what is happening biochemically is there's a very subtle buildup of CO2. I mean, so subtle, but it is almost like that squeeze of energy to give you a sense of focus. So it should be like a relaxed focus. Now, obviously, when you start to move, what's the first thing you need when you start to move? When we're settled here, you're breathing a certain volume of air. What actually increases when you start to move? What do we need more of?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. So to need more oxygen, obviously we need to breathe a little bit more air in, but we know we don't want to breathe too much air because we know we can overbreathe. So when you start to move, you still want to keep that sense of light breathing. So if we start to move and think, oh, I'm breathing through the nose, but this is really hard work, we've gone too far. So bringing that sense of lightness, so psychologically it should feel the same. And if you're doing like a walk and you're just doing a little squeeze, maybe 5 steps rather than 5 seconds, it should still feel, oh, this is quite calming and I'm squeezing a little bit more energy into my system. If you go into an easy run, I'm still the breathing, you'll need more volume because you need more oxygen, but you should still have, if it is an easy run, you should still have that sense of breathing light. And if you do a 5-second pause or a 5-step pause, it should still feel as a little squeeze. If it starts to feel too intense, we've gone maybe a little bit too far. So that's one of the ways, if you think of like the Run with Ease stuff we've done, is that's that idea of going from walk into run, into gear 1. Because what tends to happen is when most people start to exercise, they go from gear 0 to gear 10, going, right, I'm really going to go for it. And then we just miss out that whole really important bit of training or exercise or movement, where we want to get that sense of ease and flow with the movement, which is we move following the breath. So that's the idea of let the breath guide how you move. If we get out of breath too quickly, then you just need to slow down a bit. So it's the same intention with that particular practice, I would say. Is that clear?
I guess it'd be different if it was really, like you say, really fast running, like really gear 4 or 5 or something. If you were,
yeah, you should still. I mean, you should. Yeah, when you change gears, you should. Like I think I will always say, we should never be out of control of the breath. So if you lose control of the breath in gear 4, gear 3, or gear 5, then you stop, because your body's structurally not able to take that if you've lost control of the breath, most probably. Good. That's a nice question. I think Keith was going to chip in there again as well.
Yeah. One session, the last session or the one before we had, you spoke about breathing carbon dioxide into the muscles. Is that how you phrased it?
Sort of, yeah. This is a really interesting point for the OA guys as well. I just did the Oxygen Advantage training, and one of the coaches there was very body aware. And what we're talking about is like you can use a cleansing and clearing breath. So if we need to really just breathe out and let go, that's great if you do it once or twice, and we do need to do that. But that idea of almost like when we're doing that, when you're breathing out, it's not like a cleansing and clearing breath. It's almost like breathing into, I like the way you put it there, it's almost like breathing in oxygen into the muscles. And if you think about that little 5-second pause, or even if we went a little bit longer on that pause, what is happening is you get that little bit of buildup of carbon dioxide. So actually that is drawing oxygen from the blood into the muscles. So while we think, we might think, oh, if I pause the breath or if I breathe light, I'm actually going to run out of oxygen. You're not, because the more CO2, the more you get used to that balance of CO2, the more you're actually oxygenating the cells. And one of the coaches on the training was saying, like, every time if I breathe light and breathe out, I'm not actually breathing out. She was breathing, it's almost like a feeling as, obviously you are breathing out because you wouldn't want to not breathe out, but it's on that exhale that she's feeling. She was like, I can feel the oxygen and the carbon dioxide in my blood. I was like, yeah, that's great. So she was really sensing it. But it's a nice thing to think of, energizing the muscles with that light breathing, and squeezing oxygen into the tissues. And when I used to teach Chi running, they used to say gathering energy. So like Gillian said there, if you're in that gear 1, gear 2, walking, running, moving, is you don't want to be issuing energy. You don't want to be getting rid of CO2, or you don't want to be getting rid of energy unless you need to. So it's almost like that exhale is sending all of the oxygen around the body. It's not just always cleansing and clearing. And it works logically as well as psychologically as well. I think that's a nice visualization. Good. Anybody else got any other? Tom is waving. Tom?
It's just going back to the last exercise. Could I try and put into words what I was feeling when we were doing the short breath holds? And it's quite difficult putting it into words. When we were holding at the top of the breath, I think it felt more that something following on was imminent. But at the bottom of the breath, it just felt like there was like a blank space, you know. And I was, because I was thinking, would I notice a difference between it? I'm just holding my breath, but I think there was.
I think that's a brilliant point. And again, this is what is really nice about taking your time to sense that. And I think as we work through quite often, at the top of the breath, it's a hold almost. And we didn't actually hold then. I just wanted you to notice that space. And we didn't deliberately do hold at the top. But at the top of the breath, it's like, oh, I'm just going to hold that for a moment. So I like that, something imminent. At the bottom, just going to have a rest. So that's why I like to use that idea of at the bottom of the breath, I'm not holding, because the minute you start to hold, it's I have to do something.
No, it was a feeling of
get
nothing.
To the bottom, it's just like, oh, this is nice and calm, nice and still. And then, whoa, that's quite nice, because I can take a breath in again. So again, just that's what's really nice about just tuning in and feeling this. And again, from a coach's point of view, language, right, hold at the bottom of the breath. Oh, I'll try my best to hold at the bottom of the breath. Whereas just have a rest, and you can get a lot longer. You can extend that pause quite often a lot longer, just psychologically, because you're just saying, just chill out at the bottom. Nice.
I was going to say I really appreciated that, like, pause, just to sit back, especially the comparison though between the top and the bottom, because you're right. It was when I was doing the breath hold at the end, it was way more calm and peaceful, more so than when the directive is hold, because you're right. Then your body tends to tense. And so that was lovely. Thank you.
I think that's what's nice about box breathing as well, because I always, with my clients particularly, like I always add in some box breathing, because you do get that differentiation. So box breathing, I think we might not have done it in the BBM, is where you just breathe as a box. So you maybe breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, and you pause for 4. So I will always guide it like that, because you can then really notice those differences at the top and the bottom. And I do think there's something different, and I need to check this because I say this every time, but I worked with one guy and he was talking about at the top of the breath, when you hold, it's something to do with actually helping to pump blood back to the heart. Now, I might be completely wrong on that, but it was something to do with there is a physical benefit as well from holding. I don't know if any of the coaches know that, but it's something that we can have a little explore of.
In yoga, it's an up energy. So when you hold on the exhale, it's an up energy, and when you hold on the exhale, it's a down energy.
Yeah.
So I don't know the physical. I just know it's an up and a down energy.
Yeah, it does make sense, doesn't it? That's a nice way of putting it, like different energies, just like Tom was feeling there. So yeah, it's nice. It's a different energy. Brilliant. These sessions always go really quick. Lots of good conversations. We're going to do one more little practice just to finish off. So we might go just over the hour. So if that's okay, just for a couple of minutes, if everybody's okay with that. I want to do that little practice that we just did there, but with some really simple movement. So this is quite nice to do some movement. You can stay sitting if you want, or if you prefer to stand, you can stand up. And I'm just going to stand up probably on the same camera so you can see me here. And I'm just going to swap my glasses so I can see you all on the screen. And we'll practice the movement first, and then we'll come to the breath. So don't worry about the breath for the minute. All I want you to do is just press your palms together. It's a nice little yoga move there, but just create that little bit of tension. If you're standing, just take your feet about, I know you can't see my feet, but take your feet about shoulder width apart. So a little press there. And it's a simple movement. Just get the movement first. Open up, and then have a little look up to the sky. And then come back to center. Just work the movement first. Open up. Back to center. So if you think again from a Qigong, talking about heart to sky. And then you can bring the heart down to the earth. So we get in a little bit of movement. I'll just show you from the side. So you're just extending this thoracic spine here. It's a great way of getting the rib cage working. Then for the OA coaches, when I'm teaching biomechanics, I don't just focus on diaphragm, rib cage. I focus quite a lot of time on the spine, because actually that spine extending opens up the rib cage. And you can must probably hear me cracking away here because the microphone is right on my chest. And then once you've got that movement going, it's pretty obvious, just let that breath in through the nose. And this is calm breathing, so we're not taking big breaths. Just let the breath be natural. So it's a breath in, soft, it should be quiet, it should be light, and then breath out. And find your own comfortable rhythm, your own comfortable breath. Let the breath guide the movement. So you don't have to follow me, you don't have to follow anybody else on the screen. So as you breathe in, there's all that space now. Squeeze at the bottom. Keep that movement fluid as well. Keep it continuous flow. It's flowing, it's not starting or not stopping. And then what we can do is when we get to the bottom of the breath, when we get to the end of that normal exhale, you can just squeeze your hands together and just do that little 5-second pause. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then enjoy that next breath in. We don't have to be all at the same time, but maybe have a couple of breaths. And then go back for that little pause. And as you pause, you just push the hands together. So it's almost like there you're squeezing that energy into every single cell in the body. That little bit of a pause. And then you're really enjoy that next breath in. Just light breathing in. And maybe you can extend that pause. So if that feels really comfortable just with about 5 seconds, maybe see if you can just extend it a little bit longer. Keep it comfortable. See if you can just squeeze and pause. And just go to that point where your body just says to you, or your mind says to you, yeah, I'd quite like a next breath. And then when you want that next breath, it is going to feel so wonderful as you breathe in. Filling the lungs, filling the body with fresh oxygen. Maybe just one more, going to that comfortable pause. So just really hands together, squeezing the end of the exhale. Just going to that point where you feel, yeah, I'd really like to take a next breath. And take that next breath nice and calmly, smoothly. And then just to finish off, breath in, we'll just come overhead now. Overhead, breath in, and breath out. Do this sitting or standing. Breath in, calm, soft, light breathing. And then just interlocking your thumbs, resting just below the belly button, letting the elbows just soften into the body. bringing your feet together. And just closing your eyes. If you're sitting, it's absolutely fine. Just closing your eyes. If you're standing, just let the body just rock and sway as it needs to, maybe a little bit of a spiral. And just as we let the body find how much air, how it wanted to breathe at the very beginning of the session, here we're just letting the body be, finding its natural balance structurally and breathing as well. So just let the breath settle. This is a Qigong posture stance called Bamboo in the Wind. We practice every Tuesday and Thursday morning. Sometimes I could stand like this all day. Sometimes I do, not quite. And then when you're ready, just taking a slightly fuller breath in again, opening your eyes at the top of that breath, stepping out. Giving yourself a gentle brush down, brushing the crown, the scalp, down the arms, lower back, down the back and side of the legs. Of the inside of the legs, rubbing your tummy, and then just taking your seat again. Nice. My glasses on again. Okay. If anybody needs to go, that's absolutely fine, because I know we said it's I know I was going to say a 3-hour class. I know we did an hour's class. But it would be quite nice just to quickly go through the group, because I know not everybody's had a chance to have a chat or anything like that, or anything they want to share. Just anything you maybe want to share, any questions you want to ask. Let's go to Dave first. Thanks for joining, Dave. Good to see you.
Thank you. That was good. I enjoyed that. Just a question, because I introduced smiling, and I do that with my runners anyway, but I wasn't aware that there'd been a research paper into improving efficiency. Can you point me in the right direction for that?
Yeah, I will find that. I always say, there's a paper on this, and then I can never remember where it is. Let me just make a note on that. It was, I think it was in the Irish Times, and it said there was a link to the paper, so I'll find it. It was on Kipchoge, the 6-hour marathoner. So I will dig out that. But it's amazing how that idea of smiling, you can do so much with the face, I think. You don't need to breathe, you don't need to relax the body, just smile.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Tom?
No, I think I've said all that's come to mind. But it was an interesting start. We had been out this morning up in St Andrews and Dundee. Pedestrian traffic lights were against us, so we missed the bus we were supposed to get. So I came straight in from rushing back and went straight into joining in the meditative sitting, which was interesting. It was good.
Oh yes, so it's different from actually being prepared for the class and coming on and
it was
having a little
in the house
chat,
upstairs.
So just going straight into it.
Press the buttons, pick up the computer stuff,
and you're there. Brilliant.
Different.
Thanks. Thank you, Tom. Cheers, Tom. Christine.
Hi. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We did do some of this, I think, a very long time ago, maybe during one of the lockdowns or something, and it made me remember, because I do this kind of thing regular in yoga, used to do it more regular in yoga as well, how much I enjoy it and how I can feel it's done me good to slow right down. Really good, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's nice when you get that little bit of extra time. And the classes on a Tuesday and Thursday, it's always nice to be moving as well on that. But it's when you get this little bit of extra time just to do a little bit of sitting practice
great
as well.
Thank
you, Missy.
No, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite. I enjoyed it a lot. It's morning here. I mean, it's 9. So you would literally, our last son just left to go back home after the Thanksgiving holiday. So I was up here. So it's lovely. Now I'm back down. So thank you very much for that.
So you're in the States?
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
That's why it's quite good to do this at 2 o'clock UK time, because as I say, if you're on the East Coast or that area, you can get, it's like a morning class for you. So
It was lovely though. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for joining. Thanks. Yvonne.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it was just what I needed. Sadly, I sprained the same stupid ankle again this morning when I went running. I'd only got 400 or 500 yards down the field. But I was practicing that when we talked about sending the energy as well. So I was trying to direct the energy to that left ankle, and I could actually feel a sort of, I don't know whether it's in my head, but it certainly felt like a sensation there. So yeah, I think it was just what I needed. Thank you.
Somebody mentioned actually, I think actually coaches in I think was it Jacko who mentioned there was a paper on how, or was it George who mentioned there was a paper or a study on how you can send, I need to check that research as well. But even just thinking about it, and even if it is placebo and it works, but how is you now? Are you okay now with it, or?
It's not looking brilliant, but yeah, it's on a cushion at the moment, sort of.
Remember, we can hibernate a little bit during the winter anyway. So
I think that's what I'm going to do.
Think of it as your hibernation over the next few weeks.
But thank you.
Look after yourself. Have a restful weekend. Thanks,
you.
Yvonne. Is it? Dave.
Sorry, I was going to say there's also the chi saying of where the attention goes, the chi flows, and so
yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. I remember that. Thanks for that, Dave. Is it Amra? Am I pronouncing that right? Amra.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much for pronouncing it right. I enjoyed it very much. It's also 9 a.m. where I am, like Missy. And what I really liked is this gentle approach to poses. There is no pinching the nose. There is no like stress of like, now I have, so I really, really enjoy that actually. I think it's more accessible to a larger group probably of people to gently introduce this prolonged pauses. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, there's a few reasons why deliberately I didn't use the pinching of the nose there, and I do occasionally. Firstly, when we were doing it in COVID, we just said, right, there's no way you want to get people pinching the nose, basically, because the whole thing at the very beginning of COVID was don't touch your face. So it was like, just pause. And it is a different sensation, because again, the minute you start to do that, that can always stress you out. And then it was interesting in Ireland when I went to do the master training, the training with the other masters over there. I think it was Bob in the States made a really good point actually about actually pinching the nose. It's like you're really pressing on soft tissue. So what he was doing and what I do now if I use the nose is I just block. So rather than pinch, it's just like block there. So it's just like block the nose. And I will use that. But again, if I'm going in like with a first client or first group, that whole thing, and I think we said in the OA training, is the first thing is to make people feel safe. And if you go straight in with that, for me, it can stress people out. And the last thing we want to do when we're wanting to calm people down is to stress them out. So thank you. Great. Thanks very much, Amra. Diane.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was lovely. And the dull Saturday afternoon, it was just great. I had this thought that it's so nice to stop the mind. You know, when the mind stops and you just hear, it's so lovely. You know, why doesn't the mind holiday more often? And, you know, it's so lovely. And you just explained something to me about the soft tissues, because I'm aware of being clogged up in the nose and not breathing well, really. And I bought some things that were supposed to hold your nose open. So I thought, you know, I'll sleep better with my nose open and my mouth taped. It'll be wonderful. But actually, it was really, and they're quite soft things, but it was very painful in my nose in the middle of the night. I couldn't stick it any longer. So that didn't work at all.
Yeah, some of those the things that open up the nose, there can be a little bit pressure, but maybe play around with it during the day. Did you just use it at night?
Yeah, just at night, and it actually was so uncomfortable. I didn't want to do it anymore. But maybe you're right. Play around with it.
Use it during the day. See how it feels during the day. Again, I've used it occasionally during the day. I can't use it during the night because it does feel a bit odd. The other thing, and we were talking about this on Thursday, humidity. I got a humidifier. The difference it makes.
Right.
So have a little think about that, because again, my flat, I've had the beginning of this year, I had new windows put in, so it's very nice and warm, but it was getting a little bit stuffy. And the humidifier, I literally got it yesterday. These guys were telling me about the humidifiers, and this morning, again, whether it's psychological or not, but it does feel a little bit clearer, particularly in the winter. And I was Googling.
So is the humidifier cleansing the air or just altering the humidity?
It's altering the humidity. I think some of them you can get to filter the air a bit, and I think this one does. It was Christine said it was about the DeLonghi one. And
it's a dehumidifier.
Dehumidifier, yeah.
Yeah, you can get a humidifier. But
yeah, sorry, the wrong way around. Dehumidifier. Yeah. So I've got it set on, because it says about 30 to 50% humidity is what is beneficial. So I've got this on 30 and it's on constantly to get it to 30. And there's nothing, I mean, I'm in a basement flat, so it's a little bit damp anyway. But yeah, so it might be something like that to consider. But try your nasal strips first, because it's cheaper than a dehumidifier.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks, Di.
Yes, I really did. I really did.
It's the first one you've done on this, so that's good. Thank you. Keith.
Yeah, I think it's always good to have simple practices like that restated again and again and again, because it's so easy to forget. And I've had about 6 weeks of a chest infection. So it's been very difficult to just rest easily with the breath. And I had to be very patient with myself, because I couldn't do the things that I normally wanted to do because of this infection. But nevertheless, I found I could still jog up and down. Even though I couldn't breathe very well when I was sitting, if I did a light jog up and down inside and maybe outside for a little bit, I could still do that. So I was almost adjusting the breath in a very natural way. When I was sitting trying to breathe deeply and calmly, it wasn't having any of it. So it's whatever it takes to make it natural, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and maybe just a bit of movement as you're jogging, you're rotating a bit. This is what I like about movement, because breath work, it shouldn't just all be sitting. It should be a little bit of movement, because that's what we talk about breathing the everyday breath. We don't sit all day long. Well, hopefully we don't sit all day long. But no, it's good that, again, as you say, just bringing a little bit of movement into it has helped. And I think, again, that's really important, like you say, is just to go over stuff, the simple stuff. And that's another point for the coaches, isn't it? Is because, like, we often think, I know in the OA mentoring, we were talking about, what do we do after the first session and the second session? And then how do we continue that on? Come back to the simple stuff. People will love to practice it. Just the little things that Tom noticed there. And we've been working and doing the BBM the Breathe Balance move for since the beginning of lockdown. And I think Tom's done more sessions than I have as well. He has actually. You have, Brill.
Because it's an ongoing practice, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, of course.
And you haven't got it once and that's it. Tick, I've done that. It's
It'd be
going to be
boring if
ongoing.
that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's great for you to. For us to realize that it is an ongoing practice, and our body changes as we change, and you will feel different things every time you practice, I find. Good, thank you, Gillian.
What I loved about today is I don't know, it reminds me of a lot of the work that I do in my work as well, with psychological therapy with people with pain and anxiety. And really the practices we've done today are just very much the same, certainly with mindfulness for health. And it just reminds me of the fact that what works for us works for everyone, and even more so with people with, say, stress and anxiety and the pain. We were saying earlier about, certainly in our service, we've found that sort of practice, and like you were saying about the expansion, if you've got pain, it's not about getting rid of your pain or getting rid of your thoughts. You can't stop your thoughts. But so expansion, the idea of just notice the pain and just see if you can sort of breathe around it, sort of feel what, sometimes look at things like colour. Is it a colour? Is it a shape? Does it, don't force it to move, but if it does move with the breath, that's great, and just all about, because it's all about just living with those things. And I think it's really nice. It's just a really nice reminder of how it works for us all. Breath is so important, and movement and sort of being, and I think a lot of people with anxiety, they tend to hold the breath and forget that actually breathing out and having that pause at the end is just so beneficial. So like we were saying earlier, it's just a reminder, which is great.
I think the breath hold is a fascinating thing, because again, it's like, as you say, people with anxiety or tension or stress tend to maybe hold the breath, but actually it's positive to hold the breath because it does help to focus. But if you hold it for too long, then it's like anything, isn't it? If you do something for too long, then it's not good. But just that little moment of like, right, what do I need to do? Yeah, that's cleared my mind. And that little bit of maybe sometimes let go, that's cleared my mind. But as you say, it's then just coming back into that nice, easy, soft breathing. So quite often there's that other phrase, if in doubt, breathe out. Because again, it's not necessarily holding the breath that is the issue. It's holding the tension in the body. So if you breathe out, let go, cleanse and clear. Fantastic.
Can I just
great. Oh, yeah.
Can I just add one more thing, Greg?
Yeah, of course you can.
What came to mind as Gillian was talking, because I went to the dentist this morning, and I really don't like going to the dentist. And I find I hold my breath, which is really hard when you've got to do stuff in your mouth. And it's been a real problem all my life until the past probably year and a half. Whereas now I can use what I've learned to relax and breathe, and I can cope with going to the dentist in a way I haven't been able to cope with the rest of my life. And I just wanted to share that as an anecdote, to share how Gray has really helped in ways you wouldn't necessarily realise. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Handy for the dentist. That's good.
Could I second that? Because I've done the same thing at the dentist. It's the equivalent of what you do, in preparation for turning the shower to cold. Just breathe, relax, keep fight or flight at bay, and it's really good.
Yeah, I think that the whole dentist thing is somebody's just got something in your mouth, and it's just so unnatural, isn't it? It's just horrible. But
especially if they ask a question and expect an answer.
Oh God, the what do they call them? What do they call it? The
hygienist.
Hygienist. He does it on purpose because he's asking.
But if I could add, just to extend this, I could add something at the end. I was reminded of what is really nice is when, was it Diane was talking about how the mind can wander.
Yes.
And what's nice is the way that you say, well, if it wanders, that's okay. just gently bring it back, as opposed to someone telling you, don't let your mind wander. Which
it's natural.
isn't going to happen.
Yeah, it's normal, and use it. It's a bit, I always so like, it's a bit like lifting a weight. So when you're bringing your mind, when you're bringing your attention back, there's you just lifting that extra little bit of weight, which is helping to have an effect on the mind. So you're strengthening the mind rather than, oh, my mind's gone over there, no, it's terrible, I need to drag it back here. So no, it's a nice practice. Good, excellent. Oh, well, thanks so much, everybody, and thanks, coaches, for joining. I really appreciate that, you joining as well. And we will be doing another one of these sessions. Maybe, well, gosh, it's only Christmas now. It might be January, most probably we do another one of these sessions. So you'll all get an invite again if you want to jump in on that. But in the meantime, thank you for your time and your attention and your excellent comments and questions. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gray.
Thanks, Gray.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.